welcome to our 200th episode of Literary Lutheran Reads the Book of Concord. Today we're continuing to go through Article 2, Free Will. This declaration and general reply to the chief question and statement of the controversy presented in the introduction to this article is confirmed and substantiated by the following arguments from God's Word. Although these arguments are contrary to proud reason and philosophy, we know that the wisdom of this perverted world is only foolishness before God. 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verses 19 and 20. Articles of faith must be judged only from God's Word. First, mankind's reason or natural intellect does still have a dim spark of the knowledge that there is a God. It also knows about the doctrine of the law. Romans chapter 1, verses 19 through 21, 24 and 32. Yet it is so ignorant, blind, and perverted that even when the most ingenious and learned people on earth read or hear the gospel of God's Son and the promise of eternal salvation, they cannot, by their own powers, perceive, apprehend, understand, or believe and regard it as true. They want to understand these spiritual things with their reason, but the more diligently and seriously they try, the less they understand or believe. Before they become enlightened and are taught by the Holy Spirit, they regard all this only as foolishness or fictions. The natural person does not accept the things of the Spirit of God, for they are folly to him. 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 14. For since in the wisdom of God the world did not know God through wisdom, it pleased God through the folly of what we preach to save those who believe. 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 21. Now this I say and testify in the Lord, that you must no longer walk as the Gentiles, that is, those not born again of God's Spirit. You must not walk as the Gentiles do. In the futility of their minds, they are darkened in their understanding, alienated from the life of God because of the ignorance that is in them, due to their hardness of heart. Ephesians chapter 4, verses 17 and 18. To you it has been given to know the secrets of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it has not been given. This is why I speak to them in parables, because seeing they do not see, and hearing they do not hear, nor do they understand. Matthew 13, verses 11 to 13. See also Luke chapter 8, verse 18. No one understands, no one seeks for God. All have turned aside. Together they have become worthless. No one does good, not even one. Romans chapter 3, verses 11 and 12. The scriptures flatly call natural man in spiritual and divine things darkness. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 8, and Acts chapter 26, verse 18. John chapter 1, verse 5 says, the light shines in the darkness, that is, in the dark, blind world which does not know or regard God, and the darkness has not overcome it. Likewise, the scriptures teach that a sinful person is not only weak and sick, but also finished and entirely dead. Ephesians chapter 2, verses 1 through 5, and Colossians chapter 2, verse 13. Now, a person who is physically dead cannot, from his own powers, prepare or make himself come back to life again. So the person who is spiritually dead in sins cannot, by his own strength, make or apply himself to acquire spiritual and heavenly righteousness and life. This is true unless he is delivered and brought to life by God's Son from the death of sin. The scriptures deny to the intellect, heart, and will of the natural man all readiness, skill, capacity, and ability to think, to understand, to be able to do, to begin, to will, to undertake, to act, to work, or to agree to work anything good and right in spiritual things for himself. Not that we are sufficient in ourselves to claim anything is coming from us, but our sufficiency is from God. 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 5. Together they have become worthless. Romans chapter 3, verse 12. My word finds no place in you. John chapter 8, verse 37. The darkness has not overcome it. The light. John chapter 1, verse 5. The natural person does not accept, or as the Greek word properly signifies, grasps not, comprehends not, accepts not, the things of the Spirit of God. 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 14. This means he is not capable of spiritual things, for they are foolishness to him. Neither can he know them. Much less will he truly believe the gospel or agree with it and regard it as truth. For the mind that is set on the flesh, or the mind of the natural man, is hostile to God, for it does not submit to God's law. Indeed, it cannot. Romans chapter 8, verse 7. In a word, what God's Son says remains eternally true. For apart from me you can do nothing. John chapter 15, verse 5. Paul says, for it is God who works in you, both to will and to work for his good pleasure. Philippians chapter 2, verse 13. To all godly Christians who feel and experience in their hearts a small spark or longing for divine grace and eternal salvation, this precious passage is very comforting. For they know that God has kindled in their hearts this beginning of true godliness. He will further strengthen and help them in their great weakness to persevere in true faith unto the end. 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 10. This has been the Literary Lutheran Reads the Book of Concord, and I wish you a blessed weekend.